Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hazel. Right now, all eyes are on Congress. House Republicans are pushing for final passage of Donald Trump's signature big, ugly bill, frankly. We don't know if it will pass. We do know it is deeply unpopular, and it is laying bare one of the biggest, starkest contradictions in MAGA and Republican politics, sort of the defining tension at the heart of this whole era, a contradiction that's been there since the beginning. You might not remember this, but back in Donald Trump's first months as president, remember the first thing they did was to push an Obamacare repeal bill that slashed Medicaid. It included tax cuts for investors. And it didn't exactly jive with his campaign shtick of standing up for the little guy.
A Bloomberg analysis showed that counties that voted for you, middle-class and working-class counties, would do far less well under this bill than the counties that voted for Hillary, the more affluent counties.
I know.
It seems like maybe this isn't consistent with the message of the last election.
No, a lot of things aren't consistent, but these are going to be negotiated. We will take care of our people, or I'm not signing it.
He's going to take care of his people. You could take that to the bank. Well, he never got a chance to sign it because, famously, it died in the Senate. But he was pushing hard for it, just like he pushed successfully for this tax cuts for billionaires and corporations that he did sign into law last time he was president. Donald Trump, I don't think I have to tell you, doesn't seem to really care about his people. Instead, he took care of the ultra-rich at the expense of his voters. And that dynamic, whew, boy, is it alive tonight. Because this Trump reconciliation bill is loaded with perks for billionaires and businesses, all kinds of backdoor sweetheart corporate pork deals. It rolls back U.S. energy policies in the most insane way you can imagine by decades. It funds a police state led by ICE. It slashes health care and food subsidies for mostly poor and older Americans, boots millions off their health insurance, while still, to be clear, adding an estimated $3 trillion to the deficit, which may be kind of a problem in the bond markets anytime soon. And right now, that bill, which the Senate passed yesterday by one tie-breaking vote from J.D. Vance, is up in the air in the House. Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes, and there are holdouts. Now, Trump met with several groups of them today in the White House, including conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus, who say they're worried about the bill's spending and the fact that it adds $3 trillion to the deficit, and I think so-called or self-identified moderates who are worried that their voters in swing districts will punish them for a crappy bill that cuts so many vital programs and services. But one of the weird things here is that Trump's most reliable votes, right, the ones that he already has tallied up that he can count on for the bill, will come from the hardcore MAGA heads in Congress, many of whom represent places that are going to get absolutely hammered the most by the bill's provisions. Alarms are already being sounded in states like Oklahoma and West Virginia and Kentucky, where cuts to Medicaid funding in the bill could crush rural hospitals and the patients who rely on them. The bill is going to be especially ruinous to the rural white Trump base. But their elected Republican lawmakers don't seem to mind or care or know. I don't know. They're just voting in lockstep with Trump to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Even if, as Notice reported today, Trump still doesn't seem to have a firm grasp about what his signature legislative achievement does. Get this, listen to this one. According to 3 sources with direct knowledge of the comments, the president told Republicans at this meeting he had with the holdouts that there are 3 things Congress shouldn't touch if they want to win elections: Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. And as we just pointed out, this bill cuts Medicaid massively. Even some of MAGA's highest profile Republicans, like J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, have made so much noise about being the party of the working class and the working man. They've, of course, chosen to back this bill. You know who understands this? There are a lot of people in the Republican base. The great nonprofit newsroom More Perfect Union found out back in March when they actually went out and they visited a bunch of Trump voters in a Trump district in California Central Valley. And it happens to be the district with the highest percentage of residents on Medicaid in the entire country.
My medication, it runs $20,000 a month without insurance. I make $800 a month. Oh, that will kill me. That would kill my friends. That would kill millions of people in this country if they lose their health care.
If you didn't have Medicaid, how much would this cost you? How much money?
Thousands, maybe.
Thousands?
Thousands.
And that's just for you?
That's for me.
Not for your daughter? Not for your sister?
No. The medicine that my daughter takes for seizures, I won't be able to afford it. So we feel hopeless if those cuts come, you know. What we're going to do.
Those are the stakes here, right? Like real people, millions of them around the country who depend on this health insurance from the government. And so far, Republicans are coping with this fundamental, obvious contradiction by just lying to their constituents and just falling in line. Let me give you an example of how this kind of thing works. So Derek Van Orden is a Wisconsin Republican, and he's an interesting case because he represents a true swing district that's also rural in character, okay? And back in March, boy, he got all wound up, and he sounded like he was sticking to his guns on this bill.
I have very, very few hard lines when it comes to these issues that we talk about regularly. One of them is this, that I've been crystal clear with the leadership in the House here. If during this budget reconciliation process, they're going to try to cut rural health care, I am not on board. I will not be on board with a package that if anybody is trying to cut any type of rural health care, it's just not going to happen on my watch.
So that was his red line back in March. Then 2 months later, he voted to pass a House version of the Trump bill that did exactly what he said he would vote against. Republicans like Van Orden, at some levels, you can see, they understand cuts to health care would be devastating their communities. Crossing Trump would be devastating to their future political prospects. Not to mention it probably involves like having to deal with a lot more security, frankly. It's why Republicans have been lying so consistently to their own constituents about just what the bill does.
We are not cutting Medicaid. The president has said that, and I've said that. We've all said that.
By the way, nobody would get kicked off Medicaid.
The bottom line is that we're not taking away anybody's Medicaid.
There's no cuts to Medicaid.
This bill strengthens Medicaid. It will protect those benefits that hardworking Americans need.
Okay, that's just plainly a lie. They are, of course, cutting Medicaid. I mean, think about it for a second. Where else are they going to get the savings in the bill from, right? Like their own numbers. They're cutting it to the tune of nearly $1 trillion. If you're wondering what a cut that large would mean, for starters, it would kick nearly 12 million people off of their health insurance over the next decade, in addition to reducing hospital revenues by hundreds of billions of dollars, all but guaranteeing that many in underserved communities will shut their doors. There are frontline Republicans who are feeling intense political pressure on this vote. They are in districts that aren't as pro-Trump and look like they will be very hotly contested next year. Now, they also are largely voting for this bill that, again, no one really likes. Even its defenders, who I was watching today on TV, like couldn't say anything good about it. They're the ones who are really putting their political lives on the altar. They're the ones who met with Trump today, along with others. For them, the calculation is, can they get a big enough benefit from a pro-Trump vote to offset the risk of alienating constituents back home? Anything that makes them comfortable voting to cut taxes on rich people and corporations while depriving millions of health care and food stamps. Claire McCaskill is a former Democratic senator in Missouri. John Lovett was a speechwriter for President Barack Obama. He's co-host of Pod Save America, host of the Love It or Leave It podcast, and they join me now. Claire, I want to start with you as someone who's actually been in these rooms, at least on the Senate side, not on the House side, but in big legislative fights, and particularly when you were representing Missouri, you know, over your time there, particularly as it sort of trended in a more conservative direction, just making calculations about legislation, what you're able to tell people back home, and how you think these different constituencies in the Republican House are thinking through this right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because what we were trying to, the only similarity I really see is really on the Affordable Care Act, where there was intense political pressure. There was a whole lot of misinformation out there about what we were trying to do. But what we were doing in its essence, Chris, is we were trying to get more people to have health care, not less.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it was controversial because it was change, and change is hard in a system like healthcare. But we weren't trying to claw healthcare away from people. What's really interesting about this is the Republican MAGA party has dressed up as if they were for the little guy, and the beating heart of this legislation is all about rich people. And they all know it. And the reason they're working so hard, even Trump said you should raise taxes on the rich, but oh no, the Republican Party is in charge now. They are so hyper-focused on giving tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans that they are forgetting about the people who have put them in office. It is really political malpractice, and I don't think it's going to end well for them. I really don't, especially if the bill passes.
That point you made on the ACA, and we'll see. I mean, I think everyone sort of, at some level, if you had to bet, would expect the bill to pass, but also crazy things happened. I all remember the John McCain thumbs down back in 2017. But John, Claire mentioned ACA. You know, I covered that and saw it up close. And one of the things that was really interesting to me about that was it was clear that, like, the only reason they did it in the end, the Democrats, was they really believed in the project. Like, they knew they were going to get killed for it. People did it because they had a genuine and sincere ideological commitment. I can't even figure out what the genuine and sincere ideological commitment is at the heart of this enormous piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's zombie governing. You have someone like Warren Davidson who voted no on the House bill because it raised the debt by $2.4 trillion, raised the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. He called it a big, bad deficit bill, something to that effect. This bill raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. According to the CBO, raises the debt over 10 years by $3.4 trillion. Now he's a yes. Josh Hawley writes an op-ed about how he will not cut Medicaid, does an interview about how he really doesn't like a lot of what's in this bill. At the end of the interview, you expect him to say, I guess I should call my senator. Lisa Murkowski says she doesn't like the bill, hopes the House changes it. There's a bunch of people that they're not just afraid of Trump. They're afraid to govern. They're afraid to actually live by the policies they claim to care about. There is no one who likes this bill. There is no one who believes in this.